Thrown out of the restaurant for being gay in the afternoon, something is still very wrong.
As a gay woman, I'm done with pride.
It'd have been nice if the left would have done the same.
We did have a collapse at 95, okay?
A lot going on. We'll catch you up on everything Trump indicted related. He's supposed to turn himself in tomorrow in Miami. The gays against groomers, big time not on the pride train. Joe Biden still is on the pride train. Speaking of trains, they shouldn't run if they're going to run along I-95 because a section has collapsed. Also, Fox News tells Tucker to stop posting videos on Twitter. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. There's a lot to get to. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Ooh, eyes! From the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is Monday, June 12th, the year of our Lord 2023. Lots to catch you up on the weekend. Like I said, we'll probably jump into the Trump stuff first. Being, I guess, officially charged with 37 counts of various felonies. 31 of them, well, we'll just go into it right now. But also stick around, too, because the Biden administration is on the side that is not polling well at all. One of the reasons why I think, here we go. Now I'm on a tangent we'll talk about Joe Biden and the pride issue, and also a fascinating poll that's coming out of California on how many parents actually agree with all of this transitioning kids stuff. It's not many. All right, so here's what's going on with Donald Trump. After the show on Friday, it got released as to what he's actually being charged with. 37 felony counts in total. 31 of those are going to be, let me just read from Politico. Federal indictment unsealed Friday charges former President Donald Trump with 37 felony counts stemming from an investigation into the presence of a trove of classified information at his Florida estates and other locations after he left office. Yada, yada, yada. The 49-page charging document says at least 2 occasions Trump showed visitors without security clearances at his Bedminster Golf Course in Bedminster, New Jersey. Here's where I think this gets kind of interesting. Trump is facing 31 counts of violating the Espionage Act and through willful retention of classified records, plus 6 counts of obstruction of justice and false statements. So that's what makes up the 37 counts. 31 counts of retaining documents, which I'm not a lawyer. Don't come to me for legal advice. But that's like one thing to me. When you say this big number, 37 felony counts, if 31 of them are, okay, he kept the documents, and there's 31 of the documents, that's one thing. And then the other thing, which is obstruction of justice, that's the charge being levied against the former president, that makes up 6 counts. That in itself is another thing. 2 things, in my non-lawyer opinion, are happening here. He had classified documents. He didn't want to turn them over. So that's effectively what it is in my scope of view. 37 counts. That's 2 things. Here's where I think it gets fascinating with just how this stuff is racking up. First of all, pretty much every serious legal pundit on the talk shows on Friday and over the weekend kind of all said the same thing. Obviously, the super partisan ones did not. But in theory, Donald Trump could pardon himself from this. Everyone thinks that if a trial were to be held, a trial would not be held until after November 2024. In other words, all of this stuff coming down the pipe here isn't going to have any sort of impact on, other than, court dates and filing stuff and all that stuff. But the actual trial itself, everyone is saying it's not going to happen until after November 2024. That being said, if Donald Trump wins re-election, what is that? If he wins in 24, is that re-election? Or is that, because it's not consecutive. Does re-election have to be consecutive? I don't actually know. Anyways, it wouldn't be till after the election, in which case he could just pardon himself. So That's that whole thing. Now, when it comes to actually looking at what is happening here, you have to look at it through the lens of whether or not it's compelling to the people of the United States of America. And what I mean by that is, if the case is such that we have proof that he was trying to use military plans to, I don't know, invade France, then you have a thing that I think even Republicans would be like, yeah, I don't know about that. But that doesn't seem to be what's going on here. It says it in this article, and I should have highlighted this stuff where it is and such. But effectively, it says, oh shoot, he had aides stash boxes with records that included personal items and ordered them to ship him to his estate. This is again from Politico. The whole included personal items. Everybody who has been in Trump's office or in his orbit knows that he is a collector of mementos. His Trump Tower office famously is, honestly, it looks cluttered with how many mementos the guy has everywhere. So when the article from Politico says that, well, had boxes stuffed with classified information and personal items, that it starts to get really uncompelling. In that, if he's asking aides to pack, hey, just throw all that stuff in the box, we'll figure it out later, it's going to be really difficult to prove that there was an intentional act against the United States of America that he's taking when he's a well-known memento memorabilia collector. And I'm not trying to defend the former president in any way, shape, or form. I like the policies. You know, the guy himself, sometimes a little bit rough around the edges. I think we can all admit that. But at the same time, what I'm trying to say is you have to litigate this in the courtroom, obviously, but also in the eye of the American public. And if there's no smoking gun of, well, he took these classified military operation plans of how we may or may not invade Quebec, unless that's there, I don't think you're going to get the American people to care at all. Especially because the guy likes memorabilia. And if some pretty bad documents were kind of shuffled in there with the letter from Kim Jong-un, or, I don't know, the letter from Macron from France that he wanted to keep, I don't think you convince the American people of that. Now, it goes on to say lying to prosecutors or, investigators about what the documents are. That's the other 6 counts. Remember, there's 2 things. Taking stuff and then hiding stuff, I guess. Obstruction of justice and false statements. So here's where that gets interesting. Where is it? It's somewhere in this article. Basically, it's what Politico has is, well, Trump said to an aide, hey, move those boxes over there, and didn't consult his lawyers. And that is another one of, I don't know, man. I don't know if you could, obstruction of justice is a big, real thing. But understanding how people, what's it like in your office? Do you go to an office? Have you interacted with people that work in an office? Has the boss at some point said, hey, why don't you go ahead and move those over there? I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not absolving Donald Trump of any sort of potential mischaracterization of justice or obstruction of justice. No, I'm just saying, if your job, if the goal, politically speaking, by the way, this all assumes that this is a political move. If your job, politically speaking, is to characterize this guy in the eyes of the American people as just a horrible person, seems like you got to do better than that. But that's kind of what's going on here right now. he's supposed to turn himself into a Miami federal court tomorrow, which is being said there's going to be protesters there. A lot of people think there are going to be boats in the water doing their. Remember the big Trump boat parade? I think that happened somewhere in Florida. Basically, there's going to be. It's going to get interesting. Now, last time Trump got indicted for, again, a thing that is not like, if you're going to arrest a former president, it can't be because they misfiled paperwork. Again, remember, Barack Obama got hit with campaign finance crimes. Not crimes, sorry. Not doing the correct thing in terms of the campaign finance regulations. Violation. I don't know why it took me so long to think of that. Remember, Barack Obama got hit with campaign finance violations. Everybody has been hit with campaign finance violations. And that effectively what the first indictment is. Stormy Daniels paid her off, which isn't illegal, just so you know, that's not illegal. But his campaign benefited, so the accounting was wrong. That's the first indictment of a U.S. president in history. And it was that. And now the second indictment of a president in U.S. history is having to thread the needle between having the documents, but also not saying it's the exact same thing as Joe Biden. Ah, geez, now we're down another thing. All right, so the 6 counts of obstructing justice. I think they're flimsy at best. I'm not an attorney, but you have to convince the public that that's a thing. Okay, fine. But the 31 counts of having documents, what are we going to do with Obama? What are we going to do with Joe Biden? I don't know, man. Again, all looks pretty dang politically motivated. And in the horse race of running for president, the last indictment that Donald Trump got, working my way all the way back to how we started this conversation, his numbers rose in the polls. So, interesting. Now, on the topic of going on in Miami, I thought this was just fun. Trump has put out a video or a couple saying that he's innocent, which is fine. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. But just in terms of how the media is covering it, I thought this was a fascinating clip. This is Jim Jordan on, is it Dana Perino? Show on CNN, talking about the possible protests in Miami when Donald Trump turns himself in. I thought this was awesome from the congressman talking about, well, we're worried about violence and riots. First of all, everyone condemns violence, including Jim Jordan here, but calls out CNN for the times that they don't condemn violence. Watch this.
Before I let you go, I have to ask about what we're hearing from some members of your party alluding to possible violence after this indictment. Congressman Andy Biggs says we're entering a, quote, war phase. Congressman Clay Higgins tweeted some cryptic references to possible war plans. Carrie Lake said the DOJ will have to go through millions of NRA members to get Trump. Will you be clear that no Americans should be violent?
Of course we don't want violence. We've condemned violence every time it happened. I've condemned it when it happened on January 6th. I condemned it when it happened in the summer of 2020. It'd have been nice if the left would have done the same. Because what I saw, actually, frankly, I saw it on your network. I saw a reporter standing in front of a burning building saying, oh, it's mostly peaceful protests in 2020. Let's condemn the violence every time it happens. Let's don't have violence, but let's have the rule of law. Let's have equal application of the law. Let's have that in America. That's what our great country is supposed to be about. Unfortunately, in this administration, they're trampling, I think, the fundamental liberties that we enjoy as citizens.
Yeah, I just liked that a lot because, remember the lefty media kind of turned a blind eye to all the political violence that was happening and focused entirely and solely on the January 6th thing. I've said this many times, said this before. The January 6th thing was terrible. I think you run that experiment 100 times, and 99 times out of 100, it ends up worse than what it did. And it was a bad experience. And also, when you're burning down the streets of Minneapolis after George Floyd and around the country after all of those crazy incidents, that was bad too. And people need to go to jail for that as well. So there's that. Sue says, yay, Jim Jordan. There's a couple comments that I thought were kind of fascinating and wanted to get to. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit, but Ryan says, Joe had boxes of classified information stored in his office, and he shared it with a Chinese spy. I actually don't know about that. Why are we talking about Trump again? Well, because, what is it? TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. So there's that. Peggy said, this is nothing more than part of their witch hunt against Trump. That's what it's looking like. And in the grand scheme of things, yes, it's litigated in court, but it's also litigated in the public eye of the American people. And if you can't convince the American people as a whole and as a majority that this is worth doing and not tipping the scales in one way, shape, or form, it's going to be terrible. By the way, this is terrible, by the way. That regardless of whether or not you think Trump is guilty, whether you think this is all a witch hunt, whatever you think, one administration arresting and charging the leading candidate of the other party is a bad thing. Like, if George Bush arrested Bill Clinton, regardless of whether or not you think he deserves it, that's regardless of whether or not it's appropriate, it is crazy. So keep that in mind when you're watching all this stuff. This is crazy, and again, you have to convince the American people that it is worthwhile and worth doing. All right, so we'll move on from that. Moving to this. Jeez, that was. Guys, I spend too much time talking about stuff, but I feel like there's so many different caveats that you got to bring up and point out. All right. This is, I think, the new gay pride movement. There are so many people out saying that the LGBs need to ditch the TQIA2+, all of the other words, letters. This whole idea that LGBTQIA+ is all one thing. I know several people in the gay community that are looking at the T, the I, the Q, I think I is an actual physical thing. The trans stuff. We'll just leave it there. The trans stuff. I have a bunch of friends in the gay community looking at the trans stuff going, what? Why? Why are we being roped into this? But they are. And, well, I want to play a clip from the Gays Against Groomers that they've put out talking about this sort of stuff. But I also want to play this clip from Joe Biden. The White House had their big pride celebration thing in which they are encompassing. Joe Biden is firmly in the, hey, you should transition your kids, which is not where America is. Not even where California is, and not even where California is by a lot. California, the quote-unquote, the most progressive state in the union, is not. There's a Rasmussen poll we'll talk about in a bit after this. But watch this. Joe Biden, we could play more clips from this speech, but I think this is a multifaceted approach here. Joe Biden, one, is wrong about something, but two, continues to repeat something that even lefties are calling him out, saying that's just not true. It's not accurate. Watch this super short clip from Joe Biden at the White House pride stuff, and we'll discuss on the other side. Check it out.
When a person can be married in the morning and thrown out of the restaurant for being gay in the afternoon, something is still very wrong in America.
Okay. So that's Joe Biden talking about if a person can get married in the morning and thrown out of a restaurant in the afternoon for being gay, something is wrong. Good news. That's not legal. Great news, Mr. President. If you think that that's wrong, I'm happy to tell you that legally speaking, it is. But I don't even know what to call. I don't even know if this is gaslighting, because he's going around saying, and he said this multiple times. That's why I wanted to play that particular clip. He said this multiple times. If somebody can get married in the morning and then fired for their job for being gay, or thrown out of a restaurant for being gay, that's wrong. And the legal system already agrees, Mr. President. So what are you talking about? I think that's interesting just from a political standpoint, but also, like, I just don't, like, he kind of goes off the cuff here, and I wonder if he doesn't remember that somebody, even his own aides and his own staff, has said, yeah, that's not true, though. That's the problem. That's already illegal. The gay community is already a protected class in the country, and you can't do that. Honestly, actually, here, I'll go as far as to say this. If I were in a gay relationship or a gay marriage, I would love for someone to throw me out of their restaurant or fire me from a job for it, because that would mean I have a lawsuit and I have a hefty payout coming at the end of that lawsuit. Remember when Oscar from The Office, if you watched The Office, remember when Michael Scott, is the most awkward, uncomfortable episode, when Michael Scott outed Oscar as gay? And at the end of the episode, he was like, this was horrible and traumatic. And also, I got a 6-month paid vacation, and me and Gil are going on a cruise. So yeah, I'd go as far as to say the president claiming that that can happen is 100% the opposite of the truth. And also, if I were, well, I would love to be thrown out of a restaurant for being brown. If I could pinpoint that on a manager, holy cow, especially if it's like a chain restaurant, if I could get thrown out of an Applebee's, if I can get a manager say, hey, you're brown, get out of here. I'm thinking, yes, this is a lot of money coming my way. Thank you for doing that. So one, that's just not it's not legal, and two, if it is happening, which it isn't, if it were happening, legally speaking, there's a lot of money coming to those people. So there's that. But then, okay, getting back on track here. We're off the track now. We're getting back on the track. Actually, let me bring up this flag really quick because I thought this was funny. The LGB needs to ditch the TQIA plus one. But look at this. Look at the, now you can get all upset about this being on the White House. Yeah, and we don't need to have that conversation. I'm sure you're already having it in your head. But look at this. Look at the flag here. You've got the gay pride flag. Then you've got the trans stuff in the middle. But you see these two big triangular lines in the middle of it? That's it's the black and brown stripe. In other words, I think I got roped into the flag. I think by no want of my own, I think I am encompassed in that flag. Dang it. How did that happen? So black people and brown people are just now in any minority of any kind are in the flag now. Dang it, man. But anyways, here we go. Now we're back on track. This is a couple clips. And this is part of a bigger, longer project, but I thought this was, important to share here. I've made claims that, hey, yeah, I've got a bunch of gay friends that are looking at the trans stuff going like, why is this associated with us? Here, I guess, is further proof of that. Watch this, and then I'll tell you how much Target has lost. Anyways, check it out.
My name is Mickey Cutler, and I am done with Pride as a lesbian woman because I'm absolutely sick and tired of the LGBT community pushing their agenda onto children. Let kids be kids.
I'm done with Pride because it's become a public display of debauchery, and I don't know why anyone in the gay community would want to be associated with it anymore. It goes against everything we fought for.
As a gay woman, I'm done with Pride because nothing at Pride represents my values. Nothing at Pride represents who I am as a person. And I refuse to let other people sexualize my identity and turn me into a caricature of a gay person.
I know of the gay friends that I know more that think this than are super on board with it. Like I said, the LGB needs to ditch the TQIA plus 42Z12 people. All right. Oh yeah, I promised that. We'll this is very, very short here. Target is down $15 billion at this point too. And again, it has nothing to do with monogamous gay relationships, has everything to do with the trans kid thing. So there is that. That's pretty much it going into there. There was, oh, dang it. Thanks for somebody in the comments reminded me. I did tell you about a poll in California that I will read to you or look at, and we'll go through it a little bit and discuss right now. All right, so check this out. Rasmussen, which is a pretty reputable polling organization. Now, I'll be upfront about this at the front end. They were commissioned by a group called Real Impact. Now, Real Impact is a group founded at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. They are outwardly political, and I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying, just so you know, this poll by a serious polling organization was commissioned by this group. Now, having said that, I do believe the poll was done in full honesty. Like, there's no reason. One, because I think they know they're right. The Real Impact group. I think they know they're right, and two, Rasmussen's reputation could be on the line here. And even if there is a pretty big swing the other direction in terms of the people that they polled, isn't really even going to make a dent with how drastic these numbers are. A new telephone poll, an online survey by Rasmussen Reports and Real Impact, finds that 82% of California likely voters disagree with the statement, a person loses parental rights when a child enters a public school, including 69% who strongly disagree. So, this whole idea, if we didn't talk about it on this show, but if you followed the news out of Glendale, parents protesting and got in a fight with Antifa who showed up, and it's a whole just chaos. Because the school is teaching kids stuff that the parents don't want them to teach and hiding any discussions between the teachers and the parents. So the teachers are basically saying, hey, we're going to refer to you as whatever you want when you come into the school. But if your parents come into a parent-teacher meeting, we're going to lie to the parents. And they're both going to wink at each other, the student and the parents, your kid and the teacher, and lie to the parents about what they've been doing in the school. In other words, you lose parental rights the second they walk into a government school. This online survey said a parent loses their rights when a child enters a government school. 82% of them said no. No, they do not a lot. 84% of California voters, again, we're not talking about like Idaho or Texas voters, we're talking about freaking California. 84% of California voters would support a local law that required parents to be notified of any major change in the child's physical, mental, or emotional health or academic performance, including 66% that would strongly support that law. I would categorize myself in one of those. This is California, by the way. 84% of parents said, yeah, if anything happens at school with my kid, you need to tell me. You can't hide it from me. I think those were the big ones that I thought were freaking fascinating. The survey, just so you know, okay, just so we're clear here, the survey of 1,300 likely voters. Oh, was this not in California? Oh, I think I might have been entirely wrong on this. Oh, no. Okay, so those were Californians. Likely voters in 2023. Okay, so let's see. The margin for sampling error is plus or minus 3 percentage points and the 95% level of confidence. So California voters, 64% say, yeah. There's the whole thing is like this. You can go to maybe I'll put the link in the comment section so you can read that article from Rasmussen. But the bottom line is the polling is unfreaking deniable. Yeah, even the most progressive state in California, the most progressive state in the country, doesn't think that any of this stuff should be happening by a lot. So all that is to say is if you are kind of being bullied by your school board or pushed around by quote unquote society and culture, know that you're in the extreme majority. You're not a fringe person who doesn't think, hey, maybe we shouldn't transition kids. Yeah, the overwhelming majority of people in this country think that, and the president and his administration and a lot of people in the ruling class in DC do think that's okay, even though the numbers are overwhelmingly the opposite. All right, let's see. Actually, here's a decent question. We're not going to get to the I-95. There's a big section that collapsed. We don't need to do that because I wanted to answer this. I thought this was Jody asked, why the hell do Californians keep voting for Democrats? Progressive is a joke. I'll tell you why. So in California, have you ever heard the term mobbed up? In the same way that Colombia in the 80s, very in the pocket of the cartel, the California politicians are very in the pocket of a new sort of cartel, which is the unions. California is one of the biggest unionized states, and even though a bunch of people who work blue-collar union jobs have no interest in the progressive nonsense culture coming out of Sacramento, they continue to vote Democrat because the Democrats have bribed the union workers with taxpayer money or just money in general. The California Teachers Pension Fund is underfunded by like a bajillion dollars. They made some of that money up because they stole money from the federal government, so now it's somewhat evened out a little bit. But it's only a matter of time until the California Public Teachers Fund, the government teachers retirement fund, goes out the window. It is unsustainable. It's unworkable in its entirety. But legislators in California can siphon money out of the general fund to prop it up continually, and therefore public union employees and also union employees in general that prescribe to stuff like prevailing wage and this and that and the other thing continue to vote for Democrats who say that we are going to make sure that those obligations are met, even though it's mathematically not possible. In other words, the reason that Californians in a lot of ways keep voting for Democrats is because so many of them are in the pockets of the cartels that the unions represent. Not the drug cartels. You know what I'm talking about. The new version of what a cartel is now unions, public unions, and really any employee union in California that says, well, we are going to vote as a block together so that the union leaders get rich, the legislators continue being elected, and so on and so forth. The whole culture craziness in California is just a byproduct of that bad process. It has no depiction of what California voters actually want. So there's that. Okay. California can't math. Correct. That'll do it for us today. Yeah, I-95 collapsed. We got a video from that, but that's the bottom line. Is there was a section that collapsed. We don't know if there was anybody on the freeway, at least as of yet. But we'll see what happens when it comes to that. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. If you haven't already, give me a follow or a like on any of your social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB pretty much anywhere. Excited to say we are full-fledged, full steam ahead booking the comedy tour for the fall of this year. So hopefully we'll make a stop wherever it is that you are. Let's see. Anything else? We'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. If Trump does anything, well, we'll be following that story. We'll bring you any of the latest stuff on that front. But yeah, we will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. See you then. God bless America.